Hey, BoLS fans, AdamHarry back again with a Retro Corner review. Today we're taking a look at the Warhammer Army's Wood Elf book. This is for Warhammer Fantasy Battles circa 1996. That would have been 4th edition when this one was viable, was usable. This book is a classic, and we're going through it today because, well, the Sylvaneth are on the way again with a new update, which we're waiting on, but we figured, what the heck, let's go ahead and throw back here, back in the Retro Corner, and take a look at the Wood Elf book. So let's go ahead and dive on in. Kicking us right off here, you can see here's the good old copyright page again, 1996, circa when this one came out. We have some classic artwork that we wanted to show off here. Again, Warhammer Fantasy Battles, we have square bases. We've got some Wood Elves squaring off against Skaven up top here, and then, of course, the Wood Elves and Dwarf Army throwing down, because that's a classic matchup. Here's the table of contents. As you can see here, you've got just a lore section here, pretty good size. Then their bestiary, which is just going to cover all their different units and give them a little bit of background for each one. And then we get into their character lists, and then all the different characters, monsters, special characters, and all that fun stuff. And then, of course, there is a reference to the back, as well as a sample army. This book is packed full of awesome black and white shots here, like this one. Just classic Wood Elves from the world that was. So, good times. Let's keep going. This one has a bunch of information on the history of the Wood Elves, as you would expect. Just their society, where they came from, their creation myth, as it were, which, depending on how you view the end times for Warhammer Fantasy, this is either a retcon or an alternate version of that creation story, as we know what happens at the end of all of this. We get to read more about Ariel and Orion, again, the king and queen of the, king and queen of the Wood Elves here, which are kind of like forest spirit avatars or something like that. They're interesting. They're an interesting couple. And they are their power kind of waxes and wanes with the seasons, and they're pretty cool. Orion, again, the king of the hunt, that's him with the spear and the war dogs and stuff like that. Really cool stuff. And moving on here, this talks about the realm of Athelorn and some of the craziness that what's magical about it, and why the humans don't want to move in because the trees fight back, and kind of the domain of the Wood Elves. Moving on from here, it's just a lot more lore. Talks about the birth of the forest, Athelorn. Talks about how it repelled different invaders, how they've split off from their other elfkin, the Wood Elves becoming their own nation, how they dealt with dwarves, and kind of how they've dealt with the humans, the Bretonnians specifically, throughout the ages. Here we get into some of the cool color schemes that they had back in the day. Here's the classic forest dragon, really great old school dragon model. And then we get, of course, to the rest of the army. We have some old school war dancers here, which are pretty iconic. Old school Wood Elf, just frontline dudes as well. Blade Guard precursors and things like that. Here you have the basic archers. The Wood Elves were noted for their archers, who had bows that were crafted from the wood of Athelorn, which were super strong, and the bowstrings were from the elven maiden's hair that was also super strong, allowed them to shoot extra inches and be super deadly and accurate. So really fine crafted bows. Here we see a Wood Elf General and the Wood Elf Mage on horse as well. And of course, like I said, those iconic war dancers. Yeah, they were pretty scary back in the day. Again, big group army shop, got the War Eagles there, a couple of treemen back here, some dryads. These are the old school metal dryads. Matter of fact, most of this army was metal. The only things that weren't were the archers. They came in plastic, and I believe the horses were also plastic, but the vast majority of the stuff was metal. There's those dryads. Those are some old school sculpts right there, folks. Glade Guard again, with shields, spear and shields. Here's a nice map. I love maps of fantasy settings. It just helps make it more real in a kind of way. So we've got the Kingdom of Bretonnia to the west, and then you can see the Forest of Athelloren next to the Grey Mountains. I wonder if Smog hangs out there. Different setting. Moving on, but I love the maps. There's the Glade Riders and the Treemen, like I said. They also had that really cool ability. If Treemen ever were like knocked out, they would fall and they would do damage on the way down because they're supposed to be so massive. And then we have the early incarnations of Druthu, the Treeman here, with his strangely long, elongated claw arm, which I always found odd. But hey, whatever, it's a tree, right? And again, the Eagles. Moving on from there, this is just more lore here. I want to get to the army lists. Again, really cool shot of Orion. Do like that artwork. Really cool stuff there. Here we go. I believe this is going to jump into, yes, this is timelines again, which I do like those. And then some more stories. Here we get into their unit pages, as it were. So this is a 4th edition codex. So they had these different pages that kind of had their backstory, lore, whatever you want to call it, about the specific unit, and then their special rules also included on the page. And you can see here we've got the Wood Elves and the Warhawks, and then Glade Riders, War Dancers, and they had a lot of special rules here. Talismanic War Paint, they had the Immune to Psychology. They didn't really have armor, but they had different war dances they could do, which is, they actually had 2 pages of rules. Can you believe it? So they had Whirling Death, Woven Mist, Shadows, Coil, and the Storm of Blades, which allowed them to do different effects. That's why this is one of those iconic units. If you know, if anybody who's watching this video played back in the day, you know exactly what I'm talking about with those effects. So they were pretty mean. They allowed the War Dancers to get extra attacks, or to avoid taking damage, or only the needing to be hit and stuff on 6s and things like that. So I believe this is combat test leadership. If successful, the unit is unaffected. If the enemy fails a test, they require 6s to hit when they attack that turn. So that's a pretty cool ability. Moving on from there, Scouts. Scouts were pretty dirty. I remember them being pretty good. The Waywatchers specifically. Moving on, we've also got the Waywatcher traps, which were pretty nasty. Never charge them in the woods. They will kill you. And then, of course, the Treemen, which we already talked about a little bit. Dryads, Unicorns were an option for some of the riders there. The Forest Dragon was a mount option. And then Wood Elf Tactics. I always like these sections because it did give you an idea of how to play the army. You could read up on them. They weren't the best, but they had some good basics there. They weren't technically like incorrect. It's just very basic strategies to get you started. But no, like, you should take this build specifically to do these things. So it kind of left that up to you to figure out, but they were good to get you going. Here we get to the army list specific stuff, and it just talks kind of how you build out stuff and point values and all that fun stuff. Here we have the old army selection rules. 0 to 50% of your stuff can be characters. Again, this is 4th edition. 25% had to be regiments, were basically your troops. Had to be at least 25% or more. Monsters could only be up to 25% max, and allies can only be up to 25% of your total points. It's just way they limited stuff back in the day. And here we go through all the points. We're not going to go through all these because obviously these don't really matter anymore, but you get the idea. Really, back in the day, just different format of how they did everything. And we get to these special characters. We do have Orion, who clocked in at 300 points. Plus, you had to pay for all of his other stuff, which was 50 points for the Spear of Kronos, plus 50 points for the Horn of the Wild Hunt, plus 54 points for the Cloak of Isha, and then plus Pack of Braying Hounds at 5 points a hound. So he ended up being a lot more than 300 points after it was all said and done. But he was pretty much a beatstick. And then we have Ariel, the Mage Queen of Lauren. She was 366 points, plus 50 more points for the Wand of Witch Elm, 25 points for the Acorn of the Orc of Ages, 25 points for the Dart of Doom, which was amazing, 25 points for the Berry Wine as well. So again, they clocked in a lot more than just their key cost there. That's some really cool artwork of Ilario with the big butterfly / moth wings. You can see that aesthetic kind of carry over to some of the newer models. in Age of Sigmar, they still have some of those like moth wings in some areas, specifically the new Arch Revenant. But aside from that, Alariel is very different than Ariel there. So, and here's just a bunch of different characters that are no longer in the game anymore. Womp womp. Neath, the Prophetess, Thalandior, which was, I believe, a War Dancer. And then he had the War Paint, the Talisman of Quar, Spear of Death. He was in a War Dancer. Sorry, he was one of the like super Glade Guard dudes. So he's a character though. You put him with your Glade Guard because he had a spear. Or was he a Warhawk Rider? Forget. I don't remember, guys. It's been a long time. Yeah, he rides a Great Eagle, not a spear dude. My bad. He has a spear. He rides a Great Eagle. Yeah, classic. There's the War Dancer guy. Then there's Lothan the Brave, the Battle Standard Bearer. Then there's Durthru the Treeman, which you spotted already. Scarlock, which is a champion of Unit Scouts. He gets to fire the Hail of Doom arrow, which was also amazing. Which, I'm going to butcher this one, Withwieli, the Wild War Dancer champion. Very popular with the War Dancers. I don't know. Have fun saying that name. Wow. Skeothlin? Skeelin? I don't know. Some of these are way before my time, too. I don't remember half these characters. I do remember Drycha, who is the Dryad. That was a special character. Skaw the Falconer. That was another model I remember. A couple of the Beastmasters and things like that. Garuth the Beastmaster, which was kind of a play off the Beastmaster. Anyway, but that's the quick sample army here. This was a 2,000 point army that they kind of put together. And just Wood Elf General, Glade Riders, Wood Elf Mage Champion, War Dancer Champion, Sacred Glade Troop, and then on from there. So, yeah, it's a 2,000 point example army list. And then another quick short story here. And then more advertising stuff. How to collect your army, Glade Guard. This is the index area. So, but yeah, that was pretty much everything in the 1996 4th edition Wood Elves army book. Man, that takes me back. This was one of the first armies that I started collecting. I actually don't have these models anymore. I think I left them at my parents' house before I moved to college, and then they disappeared. So, go figure. Thanks, Mom. Anyway, I'm AdamHarry from BoLS. This has been another Retro Corner review. Thanks for watching. Click to subscribe. Check out more videos. And thanks for watching.